Emma Jo Morris. Emma Jo, how are you?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
You're of course known as the humble scribe, but producer Zach put you up here as the most humble of all the scribes.
I'm being promoted.
Exactly. Emma Jo, we found out, I think on Tuesday, that Alex Marlowe, also, of course, 2-time best-selling author, is also 3-time senior prom attendee. So the question is, how many senior proms did you go to back in the day?
I don't even know how did he, maybe I was a better student. I went to one.
He went to, see, now we know why he's the boss. He went to 3 senior proms.
Well, this is why Alex is in his pay grade. And they say life is an extension of high school. And I think that that's so true. High school really abides by the rules of the animal kingdom. And those are universal natural rules. And Alex is at the apex.
Yeah. It is all shuffled out as it should. We're all where we all need to be. Emma Jo, we were just talking about Israel. And I want to talk about the politics of this, if we can. The Democrats in the White House have taken, their stance against Israel has been stark and even jarring, which is odd because we know who they are. But even so, it's been quite jarring. The Secretary of State even suggesting that Israel is becoming like Hamas. And someone called in earlier and said, to criticize Israel for an errant missile that killed 7 aid workers in Gaza when Biden's last touch in Afghanistan was a drone strike that killed an aid worker, his family, and 7 children is quite rich. But my question for you is, how do you explain the left's hostility towards Israel right now?
Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly what I thought about yesterday, too, when all of this was going down in such disgusting fashion, especially on Twitter, which, obviously is like the sore of discourse. But that's right, exactly. Mistakes happen, and they're terrible. And, obviously it was appalling when the drone attack happened in Afghanistan that killed those children. But also it's mistakes happen in the fog of war, and it's very unfortunate, and you want to obviously do everything you can to avoid it, and there's no army really that does more to avoid civilian deaths than Israel, and that's always been the IDF's reputation. That's always been a main principle of the IDF. The value for life that Israel holds. We're talking about a country that will trade 100 live terrorists who have killed Israelis and Jews for a dead body to give it a proper burial. This is who we're talking about. So to turn around now as if the United States has some army that's, guided by angels, that's never, ever killed a civilian, let alone this last mistake in Afghanistan, which is literally the last, military operation that we did. And to say that Israel is somehow a terror group for this mistake, which is obviously terrible, and should be investigated, of course. But it happens. It happens. Unfortunately, it happens. And I hate saying that because the truth is I hold the same value. I'm Jewish, and this is a Jewish principle. It's there's nothing more supreme than the human soul. And death is something that you can not minimize. You can't overstate how tragic it is. But we also live in a physical world, and there's conflict in this world, and we don't have the Messiah. And this is part of that experience. Unfortunately, this is part of that physical, limited suffering that life includes. And so, that said, to see the United States, the United States has been, the Biden administration has been absolutely belligerent toward Israel. And it's a domestic thing. He's speaking to Bibi, but really he's speaking domestically. Obviously, I'm sure Israel is aware of this. Israel is obviously aware of our domestic politics. And the problem for the Biden administration is that they have burned up all of their blue-collar voters in Michigan and in the Midwest. And so they have to do kind of extra pandering to the other cohort of voters that they have in that region, which is progressives, and which is a very solid Muslim population in those areas. who obviously are more sympathetic to the Palestinian side, much more sympathetic. If anything, they have hostility toward the Israeli side, right? And that's it. That's what's going on. Is he's trying to put some more points back on the board for those people who are calling him Genocide Joe. But I mean, it's very unfortunate, because what it's starting to look like is something like, laying the groundwork for some sort of color revolution in Israel in order to secure some votes here, which is just, I mean, what an ally.
Yeah, right. I was thinking maybe, all right, two things. First, when you're talking about fog of war, I was reminded of, I don't know when this was, a couple months ago, and some IDF soldiers thought they were shooting at Hamas, but they actually ended up killing some Israeli hostages. Horrible, right? Right, their own people. They killed their own side.
That's right.
And horrible. One of the mothers of the people one of the hostages who was killed,
I know,
wrote this note. Did you hear? Did you read this?
Yeah, I know the story, but tell the audience.
Yotam. Google Yotam or look up Yotam. She said, "I am Yotam's mother. I wanted to tell you," I tear up the first time I read it. "I wanted to tell you that I love you very much, and I hug you here from afar. I know that everything that happened is absolutely not your fault, and nobody's fault except that of Hamas. I want you to look after yourselves and to think all the time that you are doing the best thing in the world, the best thing that can happen that could help us. Because of all the people of Israel and all of us need you healthy." And it goes on. It's like, wow, like that is a supernatural forgiveness and love.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And listen, stuff like that it really makes you remember why we are allies with Israel. I think that there's been a lot of crosstalk and a lot of noise on this issue. And it makes you forget, as an American, who we're talking about. Who are we talking about? We're talking about a terror organization with a culture of death. We're talking about a group that has had a battle in a hospital for weeks, in Shifa Hospital for weeks, because that's where they have their weapons and their militants, in a hospital. This is who we're talking about, versus the culture of the people that you just read. That woman is an angel. And can you imagine your son getting murdered by accident and reaching out to the soldier and saying, like, "You're fighting the good fight and I love you"? This is the culture that we're talking about in comparison. And you asked me a question in your first question, why is the left, or why does Biden have to pander to the left by taking on the side of Hamas? It's like, we're talking about a cohort of people in our country who hate the values that America stands for. Most of all, they hate meritocracy and they hate the religion. Those are the two things that are their biggest bones to pick with America. And those are the two things that Israel represents. Absolutely. Look at Israel compared to its neighbors. Look at the culture in Israel compared to its neighbors. Listen to that note. It's like, that is a culture of life, of success, and of God. And is like, that is exactly what the left resents. And that is exactly why we are allies with this place. It's like these people are on our level, and it's an elevated level. It's a cultural level that is not the same as what's going on in the rest of the world, which is why America has been such a prosperous and free and wonderful place to live. And likewise with Israel. So, it's very unfortunate to see us getting into the weeds about whatever, they did, they killed, they're in a terrible war with a terrible enemy, and they're doing their best. And we do the exact same thing. This is no different than how the United States fights, than how the UK fights, that any civilized nation fights. This isn't some sort of barbaric situation. Israel is in a very difficult spot, but at the end of the day, Israel it shares a culture and an ethos with America that alone is worth allyship. People talk about, what's the difference between Israel and Ukraine? Why is Israel an ally and not Ukraine? Or whatever. Israel and Ukraine. It's not like, obviously I'm sure there are some cultural overlaps between a European country like Ukraine and the United States. So I don't want to say that they're totally in a different universe. But, us and Israel are thick as thieves. We really are. It's a really shared and beautiful culture. And that's that letter, I think, is all the reason why this alliance started in the first place.
Yeah, that's perfect. The mom ends the letter with, come and break bread with our family. Come and eat with us.
Beautiful.
I think you hit it. And I think what was most jarring about what I've witnessed the last, 2 or 3 weeks, there's been a weird turn, is I think your initial analysis was right. And it still is right, but it was definitely right initially that, hey, Biden's going to throw a couple nods to Hamas to try to win votes in Michigan.
Yeah, can you imagine?
And there's you're right. Maybe we shouldn't skip past that too fast.
Yeah, don't bury the lead.
Because there's a story of some of his like White House staffers holding a vigil in the front of the White House. Like what? So, and there's listening. Remember that there's stories about listening sessions that were taking place within the State Department. It's wow.
We're holding space for Hamas.
Yeah. Yeah. Geez. Okay. But all right, moving past that, you're right. You're right. I almost put that as a little thing. That is massive. But okay, let's move past that one. That's one thing. But then the second thing you hit on, I think, is what I'm seeing now, that it's just more deep-seated. It's more, we actually hate the values that America and Israel stand for, which is different than I want a couple voters in Michigan. I think that's still true. But it's, we actually do hate this.
Well, the reason why the Democrats hate achievement, and they hate people who abide by Abrahamic faith.